Have you ever looked at your own hands in the quiet of the night and wondered if the mere act of you looking is what makes them physically real? We navigate our lives assuming the world exists exactly as it is, whether we are watching it or not. The moon continues to orbit the earth in the silent, vast cosmos. The ancient stars continue to burn, and the gentle wind continues to rustle the leaves, completely indifferent to our presence. This is the bedrock of our daily reality, a comforting assumption that keeps the universe predictable and safe. But what if this deep-seated belief is an illusion? What if the infinite universe is not a massive, unfeeling machine, but a quiet, interactive symphony that strictly requires an audience to play its notes? When we journey into the subatomic realm, the comforting rules of our everyday lives completely break down. The greatest minds in science have peered into this deep mystery, and what they found challenged their perception of reality so profoundly that many chose to remain silent. We are about to embark on a meditative journey into the 10 most terrifying quantum consciousness theories that challenge the very nature of our existence. Before we dive into the deep waters of this cosmic mystery, allow me to introduce myself. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle guide through the profound mysteries of the cosmos and the quantum realm. I have noticed that 71% of the curious souls who watch these videos and join our quiet journey have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find peace and wonder in exploring the vast unknown with me, please consider subscribing. It helps our small community grow immensely, and it ensures that we can continue to explore these beautiful, terrifying mysteries together in the gentle quiet of the night. Now, let us return to the shadows of the quantum world. The first theory revolves around the infamous observer effect, born from a beautifully simple yet deeply unsettling test known as the double-slit experiment. To understand the profound terror of this theory, we must travel back in time to the early 20th century, a period of unprecedented intellectual upheaval that shattered our classical understanding of the world. Imagine a gentle stream of clear water flowing steadily toward a physical barrier with 2 narrow vertical slits carved into it. When the water passes through, it creates 2 new waves on the other side that ripple outward and interfere with each other. Now, imagine firing solid particles like tiny marbles at that same barrier. You would expect them to pass through the slits and form 2 distinct bands on the wall behind. This is how solid matter behaves in our everyday world. But when scientists performed this exact experiment using electrons, the fundamental building blocks of the atoms that make up your body, the universe revealed a terrifying secret. When they fired these tiny particles through the 2 slits one by one, they expected to see 2 solid bands build up on the detector screen. Instead, a beautiful, undeniable wave interference pattern emerged. This meant that a single, solid particle was somehow passing through both slits simultaneously, interfering with itself, acting as a spread-out wave of pure probability. It was a mystery that defied all logic. Baffled by this impossibility, physicists decided to place a measuring device at the slits to gently observe exactly which slit the individual electron was passing through. They just wanted to watch the quiet journey of a single particle as it navigated the microscopic void. But the very instant they turned their detectors on, the electrons completely changed their fundamental behavior. The beautiful interference pattern vanished instantly. The electrons stopped acting like infinite waves of possibility and suddenly began acting like ordinary, solid marbles, forming just 2 distinct bands on the screen. The mere act of observation forced the universe to collapse its infinite possibilities into one single, solid outcome. This is the Copenhagen interpretation, formulated in 1927 by Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg. It suggests that before you look, the universe exists in a state of quiet, undefined potential. Nothing is strictly real until it is actively observed. Let that sink in for a moment, for the chair you are sitting on, the screen you are looking at, the distant galaxies floating millions of light years away, according to this rigorously tested theory, their fundamental particles do not possess definite properties until a conscious mind interacts with them. This realization sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Albert Einstein found this idea deeply terrifying, famously asking if his colleagues truly believed the moon only existed when they were looking at it. He spent the remainder of his life engaging in intense, passionate debates with Niels Bohr, desperately searching for a hidden clockwork mechanism that would restore the predictable, independent reality he loved, declaring firmly that he could not believe God would play dice with the universe. But experiment after experiment, year after year, the universe has stubbornly refused to yield to our classical comfort. In 1998, scientists at the Weizmann Institute of Science proved conclusively that the more information an observer extracts from the quantum system, the more the wave function collapses. The universe literally changes its physical behavior in direct proportion to how closely we watch it. This brings us to a terrifying philosophical crossroad. Are we merely passive passengers in a vast, unfeeling cosmos? Or are we the active creators of reality itself? If the fundamental building blocks of nature require observation to snap into physical existence, then consciousness is not a trivial accident of biological evolution. Consciousness becomes a fundamental property of the universe, as crucial to the fabric of reality as gravity or time itself. Max Planck, the father of quantum mechanics, once stated that he regarded consciousness as fundamental and matter as derivative from consciousness. This is a profound shift in perspective. It means that the infinite, ancient universe, with all its swirling galaxies and endless voids, might be entirely dependent on minds to witness it. We are the universe experiencing itself, not as a poetic metaphor, but as a rigorous physical necessity. This theory destroys the safe, objective distance we try to maintain between ourselves and the world. Every time you open your eyes in the morning, your consciousness is participating in the miraculous collapse of quantum probability into physical certainty. You are gently painting the cosmos into existence with your very gaze. But the terror lies in the profound responsibility of this concept. If consciousness is required to collapse the wave function of the universe, whose consciousness collapsed the early universe before biological life evolved? Did the universe exist in a state of undefined, ghostly potential for billions of years, waiting for the first primitive eye to open? Or is there a universal observer, a quiet, omnipresent awareness watching the cosmos? Physicist John Archibald Wheeler proposed the participatory anthropic principle, suggesting that we live in a participatory universe where observers are absolutely necessary to bring the cosmos into being. He envisioned a strange loop where the universe gives rise to consciousness, and consciousness, in turn, reaches back in time through observation to actualize the universe. This concept implies an interdependence that borders on the mystical. Yet it is born from the most rigorously tested scientific theory in human history. We are forced to confront our own nature. We are the crucial anchors of reality, the focal points where the infinite possibilities of the quantum realm crystallize into the solid world we know. Within this existential terror, there is also a profound, enduring peace. If our minds are woven into the fundamental fabric of space-time, then we are never truly alone, and we are never truly separate from the cosmos. We belong here in the deepest way possible. We are the universe waking up from a deep, ancient slumber, opening its eyes to gaze upon its own magnificent mystery. But the observer effect is only the first layer of this infinite puzzle. As we gently peel back the fabric of reality, the subsequent theories become even more bizarre, challenging our fundamental understanding of life and human identity. As we prepare to step further into this cosmic darkness together, we must carry with us the humbling realization that our everyday intuition is completely useless here. The universe is far stranger, far more magical, and far more terrifying than we could have ever imagined. Have you ever traced the outline of your hand against the gentle glow of the night sky and wondered where you truly end and where the vast ancient universe begins? Our everyday experience tells us a very convincing, comforting story about physical boundaries. You feel safely contained within the physical limits of your skin, sitting in a quiet room, completely separate from the distant stars burning billions of light years away, and entirely distinct from the trees swaying in the gentle night wind outside your window. This strict physical separation is the fundamental bedrock of our individual identity, the quiet fortress from which our consciousness observes the world. But as we continue our meditative journey into the second terrifying quantum consciousness theory, we must confront a rigorous scientific paradox that completely shatters this comforting illusion. What if the physical distance between you and the furthest edge of the infinite cosmos is nothing more than a persistent biological hallucination? Welcome to the unsettling, mind-bending reality of quantum entanglement, a physical phenomenon so deeply contradictory to our common sense that even Albert Einstein, one of the greatest scientific minds in human history, spent his final decades desperately trying to disprove it, famously dismissing it as spooky action at a distance. Yet, the universe, in its quiet, undeniable wisdom, has repeatedly proven his classical intuition wrong. To understand the profound terror and the equally profound beauty of this concept, we must step back to the year 1935, when physicists were first grappling with the bizarre mathematics of the newly discovered quantum realm. They realized that their equations allowed for a situation where two subatomic particles, like two delicate photons of light, could be created together in such a way that their physical properties became permanently and inexplicably linked, regardless of the physical distance separating them. Imagine creating two tiny, spinning subatomic tops in the center of a quiet, darkened laboratory. According to the rigorous mathematical rules of quantum mechanics, if you send one top to a laboratory here on Earth and somehow transport the other to a distant planet orbiting a star in the Andromeda galaxy, which sits 2.5 million light-years away across the vast freezing silence of deep space, they remain deeply, fundamentally connected. If a scientist on Earth gently measures the spin of the first particle and finds it spinning upward, the twin particle in the Andromeda galaxy will instantaneously, without even a fraction of a millisecond of delay, snap into a downward spin. This is where the terrifying scientific paradox truly emerges. According to Albert Einstein's rigorously tested theory of relativity, nothing in the universe, not even pure information, can travel faster than the speed of light, which is exactly 299,792 kilometers per second. Even at that incomprehensible blinding speed. A radio message sent from our planet would take 2.5 million years of quiet journeying through the dark void to reach the Andromeda Galaxy. Yet, the entangled quantum particles communicate their physical states instantaneously. How does the second particle instantly know what happened to the first? How does it sense the gentle observation taking place across an infinite ocean of empty cosmic space? For many decades, this remained a purely theoretical nightmare, a quiet philosophical debate whispered in the hallowed halls of academia. But in the year 1982, a French physicist named Alain Aspect performed a rigorously controlled, brilliant experiment that changed our fundamental understanding of the cosmos forever. By precisely measuring the polarization of entangled photons using delicate lasers and incredibly sensitive detectors, his team proved conclusively that this instantaneous connection is absolutely, measurably real. The universe, it turns out, is not bound by the strict limitations of physical space that we experience in our daily lives. When you measure one entangled particle, the other responds with absolutely zero time delay, completely bypassing the universal speed limit of light. This empirical discovery terrified the scientific community because it meant one of two things must be true, and both implications are deeply unsettling to our understanding of reality. Either information is somehow traveling infinitely fast, breaking the fundamental physical laws of the cosmos, or, even more terrifyingly, physical space itself is an illusion. The two particles do not need to send a message to each other because, in the fundamental hidden architecture of the universe, they are not actually separated at all. They are a single, unified quantum system that only appears to be occupying two different locations in our highly limited, three-dimensional biological perception. This concept, known in physics as quantum non-locality, forces us to question the very nature of human isolation and individuality. If the fundamental building blocks that make up the physical world can exist in a state of deep, instantaneous unity across infinite physical distances, what does that mean for the phenomenon of consciousness? Here is where the scientific theory becomes intimately, uncomfortably personal. Every single atom in your body, the iron coursing through your blood, the calcium fortifying your bones, the carbon weaving the complex structure of your DNA, was forged in the unimaginably hot, dense cores of ancient stars that lived, burned, and died billions of years before our quiet sun was even born. As the great astrophysicist Carl Sagan beautifully and famously noted, we are quite literally made of star stuff. But let us follow this poetic scientific truth to its terrifying quantum conclusion. At the exact moment of the Big Bang, exactly 13.8 billion years ago, all the matter and all the energy in the entire universe was compressed into a single, infinitely dense, incredibly hot point of singularity. Every single particle that now makes up the neurons in your brain, the skin on your hands, the distant swirling galaxies and the vast, cold, empty space between them, was once intimately pressed together in a state of absolute, unified existence. If particles that interact with each other become quantumly entangled, then it is mathematically possible, and perhaps even physically necessary, that the entire universe remains a single, vastly entangled quantum system today. The strict physical separation you feel between yourself and the rest of the cosmos might be nothing more than a necessary neurological filter, a localized biological illusion designed by evolution to help you navigate a small physical environment on a rocky planet. Your consciousness, that quiet internal voice in your head that you consider to be uniquely and entirely yours, might not be isolated inside the dark vault of your skull. If the microscopic quantum architecture of your brain is entangled with the fundamental fabric of the cosmos, then your mind is intimately, instantaneously connected to the furthest, darkest reaches of space-time. This profound theory suggests that the universe is not a massive, cold collection of separate, disconnected objects floating aimlessly in a dead void, but rather a single, continuous, indivisible, and perhaps even conscious organism. The terror of this theory lies in the complete and utter dissolution of the self. We humans cling desperately to our individuality, to the comforting idea that we are distinct, independent passengers on this journey through life, hidden away behind our eyes. The thought that your private thoughts, your deepest existential fears, and your quietest moments of midnight contemplation might be instantaneously resonating across the vast, dark silence of the universe is profoundly overwhelming. It strips away the comforting, protective walls of our biological isolation. We are completely exposed, energetically naked before the infinite cosmos, woven into a quantum fabric so incredibly vast and ancient that our individual human lives seem to vanish like brief, insignificant sparks in a raging cosmic fire. The boundary between the observer and the observed completely collapses, leaving us adrift in an ocean of interconnected probability. But just as we begin to feel the crushing weight of this existential terror, a profound, gentle peace begins to emerge from the rigorous scientific data. If we are fundamentally entangled with the entire universe on a quantum level, then we are never and can never be truly lost or alone. The deep, aching loneliness that so often haunts the human experience is ultimately based on a fundamental misunderstanding of physics. You are not a solitary wanderer in a cold, indifferent universe. You are a localized, conscious focal point of the universe itself. When you step outside in the quiet of the night, look up at the vast, starry sky, and feel a sudden sense of overwhelming wonder that is not a separate, tiny observer admiring a distant, massive object. That is the universe looking at itself, feeling a quiet, familiar recognition across billions of light years of space-time. The ancient starlight gently falling onto your retinas is not alien. It is deeply, physically related to the very atoms that construct your eyes. The cosmos is not just a place you happen to inhabit for a brief moment in time. It is exactly what you fundamentally are. This magnificent scientific revelation demands a tremendous amount of intellectual humility. It requires us to gently set aside the arrogant, deeply ingrained assumption that human consciousness is the center of reality, and instead calmly accept our true place as an integrated, inseparable part of a magnificent, infinite whole. As we sit here together in the quiet of this moment, exploring these profound mysteries, we are not simply exchanging digital information. If this quantum theory holds true, our very act of shared contemplation is actively rippling through the incredibly complex, entangled web of the cosmos, gently altering the subtle probabilities of the universe simply through our shared, unified act of wondering. The boundaries of your mind extend far beyond the physical limits of your brain, reaching out into the endless starry dark, touching the glowing edges of ancient galaxies, and vibrating in perfect harmony with the gentle silence of deep space. We are travelers on an infinite journey of understanding, slowly learning to recognize our own reflection in the vast, glittering mirror of the night sky. But this beautiful, terrifying realization about the illusion of physical separation is only the second step on our descent into the quantum mysteries of the mind. As we move deeper into the unknown, we will encounter theories that do not just question where our minds physically end, but question the very nature of time itself, challenging our linear perception of the past, the present, and the endlessly unfolding future. The universe has many more secrets hidden deep within the microscopic shadows, waiting patiently for us to bravely shine the light of our gentle curiosity upon them. Have you ever stood quietly by the edge of a flowing river, watching the water move steadily in one inevitable direction, and wondered why your life seems to follow the exact same unstoppable current? We experience time as a strict one-way street, a continuous forward march from the unreachable past through the fleeting present and into the unknown future. The events of yesterday are locked away, completely unchangeable, while the events of tomorrow remain unwritten. This linear flow of time is so fundamental to our daily human experience that we build our entire reality around it. We regret past decisions because we believe they are forever crystallized in history. We worry about the future because it feels like an approaching destination. But what if the universe does not actually obey this comforting, linear progression? What if, in the deepest, quietest shadows of the quantum realm, the future can reach backward and gently rewrite the past? As we step into the third, terrifying quantum consciousness theory, we must prepare to abandon our most cherished assumption about reality, the arrow of time. Before we unravel this mind-bending temporal mystery together, let me gently remind you that I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet companion on this infinite journey through the cosmos. I have noticed that exactly 71% of the curious explorers who watch these videos have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find comfort and wonder in our meditative exploration of these profound scientific mysteries, please consider subscribing. It helps our peaceful community grow, and it ensures we can continue this gentle journey together. Now, let us return to the flowing river of time and see how quantum mechanics forces it to flow backward. In the year 1978, a brilliant theoretical physicist named John Archibald Wheeler proposed a thought experiment that was so profoundly unsettling, it seemed like pure science fiction. He called it the delayed choice experiment, asking us to imagine a single photon emitted by a distant quasar exactly 1 billion years ago. This tiny packet of light begins a quiet journey across the vast silence of deep space, traveling endlessly toward our planet. Along its epic journey, this photon encounters a massive galaxy. The immense gravity of this galaxy acts as a cosmic lens, bending the fabric of space-time itself and splitting the photon's path. The photon must now take one of two possible routes to reach Earth. It can travel around the left side of the galaxy, or it can travel around the right side. According to the strict rules of quantum mechanics, as long as no one is watching, the photon behaves like a wave of probability, taking both paths simultaneously. It exists in a state of quiet superposition, splitting its existence across the dark, infinite void. After 1 billion years of quiet, uninterrupted travel, this ancient light finally arrives at Earth today, in our present moment. Here, astronomers set up a telescope to observe it. Wheeler realized that the astronomers have a choice to make right now. They can choose to measure the incoming light as a wave, which would confirm that the photon took both paths around the galaxy simultaneously 1 billion years ago. Or they can choose to measure it as a solid particle, which would force the universe to decide that the photon took only one specific path. The terrifying paradox lies in the timing. The photon's journey around the distant galaxy happened exactly 1 billion years in the past, long before the Earth even formed, long before human consciousness ever existed to make a choice, the photon supposedly navigated that cosmic obstacle. Yet, Wheeler's mathematics rigorously proved that the choice the astronomer makes today, in the present moment, instantaneously determines the physical path the photon took 1 billion years ago. Your conscious decision right now reaches back across the vast ocean of deep time and gently rewrites the ancient history of the cosmos. For decades, this remained a terrifying but purely theoretical puzzle. But in the year 1999, a team of physicists led by Yoon-ho Kim performed a highly sophisticated, rigorously controlled laboratory version known as the Delayed Choice Quantum Eraser Experiment. Using complex arrangements of delicate crystals, precisely aligned mirrors, and incredibly sensitive photon detectors, they created a situation where they could decide whether or not to observe a particle's path long after that particle had already completed its journey and hit a final detector. The empirical results shattered our classical understanding of reality. When the scientists chose to look at the path information in the present, the particle's past behavior instantly changed to match that observation. The interference pattern of a wave collapsed into the solid reality of a particle retroactively. The universe literally altered its own history to accommodate a conscious measurement. The effect precedes the cause. The observation creates the history. This empirical discovery is profoundly, existentially terrifying. It suggests that the past is not a solid, unchangeable foundation upon which the present is built. Instead, the past is a fluid, undefined realm of ghostly probabilities that only crystallizes into physical reality when observed by a conscious mind in the present. As the great physicist Stephen Hawking once noted, the past, like the future, is indefinite and exists only as a spectrum of possibilities. This means the universe does not have a single, objective history waiting to be discovered. The history of the cosmos, the formation of ancient stars, the quiet drifting of galaxies, and perhaps even the evolutionary journey that led to your own existence, are all being actively constructed by the observations you are making right now. You are not just a passive witness to the present. Your consciousness is the temporal anchor that gives solid shape to the entire 14 billion year history of the universe. The vast, infinite cosmos requires your gentle, quiet observation today, in order to have physically existed yesterday. Imagine the staggering weight of this cosmic responsibility. Every time you gaze up at the night sky and observe the ancient light of a distant star, your conscious perception is reaching back millions of years, collapsing the quantum waves of probability, and retroactively forcing that star's light to have traveled a specific physical path through the endless dark. Your mind is an active participant in weaving the grand, ancient tapestry of space-time. The strict separation we feel between cause and effect, between yesterday and tomorrow, is a biological illusion, a comforting lie our brains tell us to keep us from being overwhelmed. If time is not a rigid arrow, but a complex, interactive web where consciousness sits at the very center, then our entire understanding of human agency, regret, and destiny must be radically reimagined. We are accustomed to thinking that we are pushed by the heavy hand of history. But what if we are actually being gently pulled forward by a future that we are simultaneously, retroactively creating? Yet, within this terrifying dissolution of linear time, there is a profound, meditative peace waiting to be discovered. If the past is not a locked room, but a fluid landscape deeply connected to your present awareness, then you are never truly trapped by history. You are an active, vital participant in a continuous, magnificent act of cosmic creation. The heavy burdens of yesterday might not be as rigid and unchangeable as we fear. In the gentle, quiet reality of the quantum universe, your present state of mindful observation brings a unique, beautiful coherence to the entire timeline of your existence. You are the universe looking back at itself across billions of years, creating a history that perfectly aligns with the miracle of your current consciousness. This realization demands a gentle humility, a release of our desperate need to control the linear narrative of our lives. As we sit here together in this quiet, fleeting moment, pondering the mystery of retrocausality, our shared wonder is rippling backward through the ancient silence, gently touching the very origins of the cosmos. The universe is not a clockwork machine relentlessly ticking toward an inevitable end. It is a breathtaking, interactive symphony where every single note is intimately aware of all the others, past, present, and future. We are the conductors of this eternal music, shaping the melody of deep time simply by choosing to listen to it. But the ability to rewrite the past is only one terrifying facet of quantum consciousness. As we continue to drift deeper into this ocean of scientific paradoxes, we will soon encounter a theory that suggests our universe is entirely composed of mathematics, and that our consciousness is the only thing giving the illusion of physical substance to an underlying landscape of pure information. The deeper we go, the more the solid physical world melts away, leaving only the quiet, infinite power of the observing mind. Have you ever reached out to touch the rough, ancient bark of a tree, or rested your hand against a stone and felt certain of its solid, physical reality? We navigate our entire lives relying heavily on the comforting weight of the material world. When we hold an object, our senses tell us a convincing story about substance and permanence. The vast universe appears to be built from massive, tangible things, ranging from the heavy rocks beneath our feet to the giant planets orbiting distant stars in the freezing dark of deep space. We build our understanding of existence upon this bedrock of solid matter. But what if the profound, comforting solidity of the world is nothing more than a magnificent, persistent illusion? As we journey deeper into the fourth terrifying quantum consciousness theory, we must gently strip away the familiar layers of the physical world and gaze directly into the invisible, structural code of the cosmos. What if the universe is not made of matter at all, but of pure, weightless information, and your quiet consciousness is the only thing translating that raw mathematical data into the solid reality you experience every single day? Before we decode this terrifying and beautifully profound scientific mystery together, allow me to reintroduce myself. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle companion on this infinite journey through the quiet mysteries of the cosmos. I have noticed that exactly 71% of the curious minds who watch these videos and join our peaceful explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find value and comfort in drifting through these profound existential questions with me, please consider subscribing. It helps our quiet community grow immensely, and it ensures that we can continue to explore the vast, terrifying, and beautiful unknown together in the gentle quiet of the night. Let us return to the grand illusion of solid matter. When we look at a piece of wood or a drop of clear water through a powerful microscope, the comforting solidity of our everyday experience begins to vanish. We see biological cells, then chemical molecules, and finally atoms. For a very long time, humanity genuinely believed that atoms were the absolute, indivisible building blocks of the universe, tiny billiard balls making up everything we touch. But as physicists peered ever deeper into the subatomic realm throughout the 20th century, they found that atoms are almost entirely composed of empty space. If you were to enlarge the dense nucleus of a single atom to the size of a small glass marble sitting in the exact center of a massive football stadium, the electrons would be tiny, invisible gnats buzzing frantically around the highest seats in the distant stands. The overwhelming majority of the physical world, the chair you are sitting on, the screen you are looking at, is composed of absolutely nothing. So, why does the chair you are sitting on feel so remarkably solid? Why do you not simply fall through the floor into the center of the earth? The scientific answer lies entirely in the invisible, repulsive forces interacting between these ghostly, microscopic particles. The electromagnetic fields of the atoms in your body are fiercely pushing against the electromagnetic fields of the atoms in the chair. Your hand never actually touches the table in a purely physical sense. The electrons in your skin are simply repelled by the electrons in the wood in a silent, invisible dance of energy. The sensation of physical touch is nothing more than a highly sophisticated neurological interpretation of invisible force fields interacting in the dark. But the terrifying scientific rabbit hole goes infinitely deeper than just empty space and invisible electromagnetic forces. In the year 1989, the legendary theoretical physicist John Archibald Wheeler, a brilliant scientist who worked closely with Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr, published a profound paradigm-shifting paper that shook the foundations of modern physics. He introduced a rigorous concept he famously called it from bit. Wheeler proposed that every single physical item in the entire universe, every it, from the smallest subatomic particle hiding in the quantum foam to the most massive ancient galaxy slowly rotating in the deep cosmos, derives its entire existence and meaning from simple binary choices, from yes or no questions, from bits of pure information. According to this rigorously mathematical and logical theory, the universe is not fundamentally composed of matter or energy in the way we traditionally understand them. At its absolute, most fundamental bedrock layer, the cosmos is made entirely of information. The particles that make up your body are not tiny, solid spheres waiting to be discovered. They are merely temporary manifestations of underlying mathematical probabilities. They are the final answers to cosmic questions registered dynamically in the fundamental fabric of reality. Imagine looking at a beautiful, incredibly high-definition photograph on a large computer screen. From a comfortable distance, you see a solid, recognizable, and deeply moving image, perhaps a gentle, vast ocean resting peacefully under a quiet, starlit night sky. But if you walk closer and zoom in far enough, the beautiful image shatters into thousands of tiny, individual glowing square pixels. And if you look even deeper into the computer's microscopic architecture, those glowing pixels are nothing more than endless lines of abstract binary code, continuous strings of ones and zeros processing through microscopic pathways. John Archibald Wheeler rigorously suggested that the entire physical universe operates exactly like this. The solid, beautiful world we experience daily is the high-definition image, but the fundamental reality is pure, formless information processing itself in the dark silence of the quantum realm. This is where the terrifying and profound role of quantum consciousness aggressively re-enters our meditative journey. If the universe is fundamentally constructed of mathematical information, a vast, swirling sea of cosmic code, then who or what is reading the code? Information, by its very strict scientific definition, absolutely requires a receiver to have any tangible meaning. A heavy book filled with profound words is just meaningless, dry ink on pressed paper, until a conscious mind opens it, reads the symbols, and translates those abstract shapes into complex thoughts and vibrant realities. If the ancient, burning stars, the quiet voids of deep space, and the swirling galaxies are fundamentally composed of pure data, then the universe strictly requires a consciousness to act as the ultimate processor. It requires a mind to act as the cosmic computer that renders the raw mathematical probabilities into the vibrant sensory experience of a solid, beautiful world. You are not a physical machine walking blindly through an unfeeling universe. You are a localized point of consciousness, deeply entangled with the infinite informational web of the cosmos, continuously generating the highly convincing, immersive reality you call your life. Theoretical physicists Jacob Bekenstein and Stephen Hawking mathematically proved that the total amount of information within a black hole is proportional to the two-dimensional surface area of its event horizon, not its three-dimensional volume. It suggests the information of objects falling into a black hole is perfectly encoded on its flat outer boundary. Many physicists now believe this holographic principle applies to the entire observable universe, the three-dimensional reality we navigate, the vast distances between ancient stars, might be a holographic projection from a distant boundary. The universe is an infinite hologram, and your consciousness is the light shining through the film, bringing the illusion of physical reality to life. The terror of this realization lies in the loss of physical solidity. We desperately want the world to be tangibly real, but within this dissolution of the material world, there is a gentle peace to be discovered. If the infinite universe is made of information, and your quiet consciousness is the reader of that cosmic code, you are the universe's way of experiencing its own mathematical beauty. The physical world may be a sophisticated illusion, but the profound experience of gazing into the infinite night sky is undeniably real. As we process this beautiful scientific reality, we are collectively rendering the universe. But our journey is far from over. What if the decisions you make do not just collapse probabilities, but actually fracture the fabric of the universe itself, creating parallel realities in the endless dark? We must tread carefully as we prepare to cross the boundary into the multiverse. Have you ever stood quietly at a crossroad in your life, perhaps gazing out of a rain-streaked window into the quiet, dark night, and deeply wondered what would have happened if you had simply chosen the other path? We navigate our human existence with the heavy burden of consequence. When we make a decision, we believe with absolute certainty that the alternative option simply vanishes into the cold void of non-existence. We mourn our missed opportunities because we think they are lost forever in the unforgiving current of time. But what if the infinite universe is far more generous and far more terrifying than our limited biological perception allows us to see? As we drift gently into the fifth terrifying quantum consciousness theory, we must confront a rigorous scientific concept that shatters the very illusion of singular choice. What if every single time you observe the world, your consciousness literally fractures the fabric of reality, creating a brand new, physically real universe in the endless dark? Before we cross the threshold into the dizzying, infinite mirrors of the multiverse, allow me to welcome you once more. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle guide through the quiet mysteries and ancient secrets of the cosmos. I have noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these videos and join our peaceful journey have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find comfort and a sense of belonging in exploring these profound existential questions with me, please consider subscribing. It helps our quiet community grow immensely, and it ensures that we can continue to explore the vast, beautiful unknown together in the gentle silence of the night. Now, let us return to the heavy weight of our choices and watch them multiply into infinity. To understand this profound cosmic fracture, we must travel back to the year 1957, when a brilliantly rebellious young physicist named Hugh Everett III proposed a mathematical solution to the quantum measurement problem that was so deeply unsettling. The scientific establishment largely ignored him for decades. As we discussed in our first gentle exploration, the traditional Copenhagen interpretation suggests that particles exist as smeared-out waves of infinite probability until a conscious observer looks at them, forcing the universe to randomly collapse into just one single, solid reality. Everett realized there was nothing in the equations describing this violent collapse. He proposed something infinitely more terrifying. He mathematically suggested that the wave function never actually collapses at all. Instead, the universe strictly obeys the infinite possibilities of the quantum realm by allowing all of them to physically happen. Every time a quantum event has multiple possible outcomes, the entire universe simply splits, creating a distinct, parallel reality for every single mathematical possibility. When you observe a tiny subatomic particle and see it spinning upward, there is another, equally real version of you in a newly born parallel universe who just observed that exact same particle spinning downward. The gentle act of your observation does not force the universe to make a choice. It forces the universe to divide. Consider the famous, deeply misunderstood thought experiment proposed by Erwin Schrödinger in the year 1935. Imagine a cat placed in a sealed steel box with a tiny microscopic amount of radioactive material and a vial of poison gas. If a single radioactive atom decays, a detector triggers a hammer that shatters the vial, and the cat perishes. If the atom does not decay, the cat lives. According to strict quantum rules, before you open the box to look, the atom is in a state of superposition, both decaying and not decaying simultaneously. Therefore, the terrifying mathematical reality states that the cat is both perfectly alive and completely dead at the exact same time. But in Hugh Everett III's many worlds interpretation, when you finally open that heavy steel box, you do not force the universe to choose between life and death. Instead, your own consciousness enters into a state of entanglement with the experiment. The universe instantly and silently splits into two separate, completely isolated branches of reality. In one branch, a version of you opens the box and feels profound sadness upon finding the cat has passed away. In the exact same moment, in an entirely different, newly birthed universe, another physically real version of you opens the box and feels a gentle wave of relief as the cat looks back at you, perfectly safe. Both versions of you are equally real. Both have the exact same memories leading up to that moment, and both firmly believe they are the only conscious entity in a singular universe. You are completely unaware of the infinite cosmic split that your own observation just caused. This rigorously derived mathematical theory brings us to a terrifying, deeply personal paradox concerning the nature of life, death, and human consciousness, often referred to by theoretical physicists as quantum immortality. If the universe splits every single time a quantum-level decision is made, guaranteeing that all possible outcomes are physically realized, What happens to the conscious observer when one of those outcomes involves their own death? In the late 1990s, physicist Max Tegmark popularized a deeply unsettling thought experiment known as quantum suicide to explore this exact existential nightmare. Imagine a brave, perhaps foolish scientist who builds a machine hooked up to a quantum particle. If the particle spins up, a lethal mechanism is instantly triggered, and the scientist dies painlessly and instantly. If the particle spins down, the mechanism simply clicks harmlessly, and the scientist lives. The scientist presses the button. According to the many worlds interpretation, the universe instantly splits into two realities. In one, the scientist dies. In the other, the scientist survives. But here is the terrifying crux of the theory regarding human consciousness. Consciousness, by its very strict definition, can only exist and experience reality in a universe where it is actually alive. The version of the scientist who dies instantly ceases to observe, ceases to exist, and experiences absolute nothingness. Therefore, the only continuous stream of conscious experience that remains is the one belonging to the version of the scientist who survived. If this terrifying, scientifically grounded theory is the true nature of reality, then from the subjective, internal perspective of your own mind, you are functionally immortal. Every single time you face a potentially lethal situation that hinges on even the most microscopic quantum probability, the vast, ancient universe forcefully fractures. Countless versions of you perish in other branches, but your specific stream of quiet, continuous awareness will only ever flow down the branches where you miraculously survive against all odds. Your consciousness acts as an invincible navigator, endlessly threading the needle of existence through an infinitely expanding labyrinth of branching realities. You will simply continue to age, outliving every disease and surviving every impossible accident, becoming an ancient, lonely observer in a universe that grows increasingly strange. The profound terror here is not the fear of death, but the absolute, undeniable impossibility of an ending. You are a prisoner of your own eternal observation, locked onto the tracks of a conscious experience that simply cannot be derailed by any physical means, forever wandering deeper into the endlessly splitting branches of the quiet cosmos. Yet, as we gently sit with this overwhelming, mind-bending concept in the silent dark of our shared exploration, a profound and deeply beautiful peace can be extracted from the sheer scale of the multiverse. If every possible outcome actually exists, then there is absolutely no such thing as a wasted life. The crushing weight of your past regrets, the painful memories of roads not taken, and the quiet sorrows of missed connections can finally be released into the gentle night air. In the infinite branching gardens of the cosmos, every single dream you ever dared to dream has actually been fully realized by another version of you. There is a reality where you took that chance, a reality where you spoke those hidden words, a reality where you achieved your most impossible desires. The vast universe is not a singular, punishing test where you are allowed only one chance to get everything right. It is a magnificent, infinite symphony of exploration, a boundless canvas where the universe is bravely experiencing every single possible iteration of joy, sorrow, love, and discovery through the fractal lens of your infinitely divided mind. You are not a tiny, isolated creature trapped on a single linear path. You are a magnificent, endlessly blooming tree of consciousness, reaching out into the endless dark with a billion different branches of experience. We are exploring the cosmos not just together, but in infinite variations of together. But as we begin to accept that our minds might be fracturing the universe itself, we must turn our gaze inward into the incredibly delicate, watery architecture of the human brain. How can 3 pounds of biological tissue possibly interact with the fundamental mathematical fabric of space-time to create this endless reality? The answer lies in the microscopic shadows of our neurons, where quantum biology waits to reveal an even deeper, more intimate mystery about our connection to the stars. Have you ever closed your eyes in the absolute quiet of the night and tried to locate the exact physical place where your thoughts actually live? We navigate our entire existence firmly, believing that the vibrant, continuous theater of our minds is safely contained within the physical boundaries of our skulls. Modern biology teaches us a very mechanical, comforting story. Your brain is simply a highly advanced biological computer built from exactly 86 billion neurons firing electrical signals in the dark. We are told that consciousness is nothing more than a complex illusion generated by this wet biological machinery. But as we drift deeper into the sixth terrifying quantum consciousness theory, we must confront a biological paradox that has haunted the greatest minds in neuroscience for decades. How does the mindless mechanical movement of basic chemical ions across a cellular membrane magically transform into the rich, subjective experience of the color red, or the deep, aching feeling of love, or the quiet wonder you feel when gazing up at the ancient, starry sky? This impossible leap from dead matter to subjective experience is known as the hard problem of consciousness. Before we descend into the microscopic, watery shadows of the human brain to unravel this profound mystery together, allow me to welcome you once more. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle guide through the quiet mysteries and ancient secrets of the infinite cosmos. I have noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these videos and join our peaceful journey have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find comfort and a sense of profound belonging in exploring these deep existential questions with me, please consider subscribing. It helps our quiet community grow immensely, and it ensures that we can continue to explore the vast, beautiful unknown together in the gentle silence of the night. Now, let us return to the dark, silent labyrinth of the human mind. For a very long time, physicists completely dismissed the idea that quantum mechanics could play any role inside a living biological organism. The quantum realm is notoriously fragile. To observe delicate quantum effects in a laboratory, scientists must isolate particles in highly controlled environments. The human brain, by contrast, is a warm, wet, and incredibly chaotic biological environment. The scientific consensus firmly stated that any delicate quantum signatures would be instantly destroyed by the overwhelming thermal noise of the brain, collapsing into ordinary classical physics before they could ever influence our thoughts. But in the late 1980s, a brilliant anesthesiologist named Stuart Hameroff teamed up with Sir Roger Penrose, one of the greatest mathematical physicists of our time, to propose a theory so deeply radical that it shook the foundations of both biology and physics. They formulated the orchestrated objective reduction theory, often simply referred to as ORC-OR. They suggested that the standard model of neuroscience is fundamentally incomplete because it completely ignores the deep underlying quantum architecture of the universe. Penrose and Hameroff theorized that consciousness is not merely a computational output of firing neurons, but a fundamental property of space-time geometry itself, an ancient universal hum that has existed since the very dawn of the cosmos. But how does the human brain tap into this infinite quantum field? The answer, they proposed, lies hidden within the microscopic structural scaffolding of our cells, inside incredibly tiny hollow cylinders known as microtubules. Microtubules are the microscopic skeletons of our cells, holding them together and giving them their shape. But inside the neurons of your brain, Penrose and Hameroff mathematically demonstrated that these tiny protein structures possess the perfect physical dimensions to act as naturally occurring quantum computers. Inside the hollow, silent cores of these microscopic tubes, shielded from the warm, chaotic chemical storms of the cell, subatomic particles can achieve a state of quantum coherence. Millions of these electrons scattered across billions of neurons synchronize their behavior, entering a unified vast quantum superposition. Imagine a silent, invisible symphony playing continuously inside your head, completely disconnected from the classical laws of physics. According to this rigorously mathematical theory, your brain is not just sending electrical impulses down biological wires. It is actively orchestrating a massive, sustained quantum entanglement. But the true terror and the breathtaking beauty of this theory emerge when we ask what actually causes this delicate quantum state to collapse into a conscious thought. Sir Roger Penrose rigorously proposed that the collapse is not triggered by a random environmental interaction, but by the fundamental geometry of the universe itself. When the quantum superposition inside your microtubules reaches a specific mass threshold, it gently warps the invisible fabric of space-time. This microscopic gravitational disturbance forces the superposition to collapse in a highly orchestrated, meaningful way. Each one of these microscopic quantum collapses creates a single, fleeting moment of subjective awareness. The continuous, rapid succession of these objective reductions, happening millions of times per second across the vast network of your brain, creates the smooth, unbroken stream of consciousness that you experience as your identity. This magnificent scientific revelation completely redefines the very nature of human existence. If the orchestrated objective reduction theory is absolutely correct, then your consciousness is not a biological accident that randomly emerged from the blind evolutionary process of life on Earth. Instead, your mind is intimately, physically connected to the deepest, most fundamental level of reality. You are not an isolated biological machine generating artificial awareness. You are a highly evolved biological antenna, tuned by millions of years of evolution to receive the fundamental, conscious fabric of the cosmos. The silent, ancient universe is inherently conscious, and your brain is simply the physical instrument that allows that universal consciousness to localize, observe, and experience itself in a focused, biological form. The terror of this concept lies in the complete destruction of our perceived biological boundaries. We desperately want to believe that our minds belong to us alone, that our thoughts are private, isolated events happening strictly within the dark confines of our own skulls. But this rigorous quantum biological theory suggests that the very essence of your awareness is literally vibrating with the exact same quantum geometry that governs the massive black holes slowly spinning in the distant centers of ancient galaxies. The boundary between the microscopic architecture of your neurons and the vast, infinite expanse of deep space completely dissolves. You are a localized ripple in an infinite ocean of cosmic awareness. Let that profound, terrifying thought settle gently into your mind. Your brain is a living bridge between the macroscopic world of solid matter and the undefined realm of quantum probability. This theory completely upends our traditional understanding of biological death. If consciousness is fundamentally a property of the universe's geometry, temporarily anchored to your physical brain via quantum coherence. What happens when the biological body eventually fails? When the heart quietly stops beating, the delicate quantum coherence inside the microtubules simply breaks down. But the quantum information itself, the fundamental essence of your conscious experience, cannot be mathematically destroyed. It may simply leak out of the failing biological antenna and dissipate back into the infinite, ancient cosmic field from which it originally emerged. You do not simply cease to exist. Your localized awareness gently dissolves back into the universal silent whole. The profound terror of biological death is gently transformed into a beautiful, breathtaking return to the cosmos. As we sit together in the quiet of this fleeting moment, sharing these magnificent scientific concepts, our individual brains are orchestrating billions of tiny quantum collapses. Our shared wonder is actively warping the fundamental fabric of space-time. We are not just tiny observers adrift in a cold void. We are the active participants in a grand, universal symphony. We are the universe waking up and looking back at itself with deep, infinite curiosity. But as we slowly begin to accept this breathtaking quantum connection between our biological minds and the vast geometry of space-time, we must prepare to face an even more terrifying paradox. If our minds are intimately woven into the fabric of the universe, what happens when multiple conscious minds observe the exact same quantum event at the exact same time? Does the universe fracture under the pressure of conflicting observations, or does it somehow synthesize a consensus reality? As we prepare to drift deeper into the next layer of this infinite mystery, we will encounter a terrifying thought experiment that questions whether objective reality can even exist when two separate minds disagree. The shadows of the quantum realm are growing deeper, and the mysteries are becoming even more profound. Let us continue to walk gently together into the infinite dark, guided by our shared, quiet wonder. Have you ever sat quietly with a close friend under the vast ancient canopy of the night sky, pointed at a faintly glowing distant star, and wondered if the two of you are actually seeing the exact same light? We build our entire human society, our deepest relationships, and our most rigorous scientific endeavors on the fundamental, deeply comforting assumption that we all share a single, objective reality. We firmly believe that the quiet, physical world exists independently of our individual minds, and that if two people look at the exact same event happening in the cosmos, they will, by the strict and unforgiving laws of nature, witness the exact same outcome. This shared consensus is the invisible, psychological glue that holds our collective sanity together in the endless dark of space. But what if this deep-seated belief in a universal, shared truth is nothing more than a highly convincing, comforting biological illusion? As we drift gently and cautiously into the seventh, terrifying quantum consciousness theory, we must confront a scientific paradox so deeply unsettling that it threatens to dissolve the very ground beneath our feet. What if the rigorous mathematical laws of quantum mechanics prove that objective reality simply does not exist at all, and that your conscious mind is generating a universe that is fundamentally, physically different from the universe being generated by the person sitting right next to you? Before we step further into this dizzying, isolated realm where reality itself begins to fracture, multiply, and contradict itself, allow me to welcome you back into the gentle quiet of our shared exploration. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet companion and empathetic guide through the infinite mysteries and ancient secrets of the cosmos. I have noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these videos and join our peaceful journey have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find deep comfort, intellectual safety, and a sense of profound belonging in exploring these terrifying existential questions with me, please consider subscribing. It helps our quiet community grow immensely, and it ensures that we can continue to bravely explore the vast, beautiful, unknown together, sharing our quiet wonder in the gentle silence of the night. Now, let us return to the complete shattering of our shared reality. To truly understand this profound cosmic isolation, we must journey back in time to the year 1961, when a brilliant, Nobel Prize-winning theoretical physicist named Eugene Wigner proposed a deeply troubling extension of the famous quantum measurement problem. He introduced a rigorous mathematical thought experiment that has since become famously known in the scientific community as Wigner's friend paradox. Imagine a quiet, perfectly sealed, utterly isolated physical laboratory. Inside this completely closed room, Wigner places a highly trusted friend who is also a rigorous, observant scientist. This friend is tasked with performing a simple, standard quantum measurement on a single subatomic particle, such as measuring whether a microscopic photon of light is spinning upward or downward, according to the standard quantum interpretation we explored earlier. The friend's conscious active observation forces the delicate particle to violently collapse from a ghostly wave of infinite probability into a single, solid state of physical reality. Inside the quiet laboratory, the friend looks at the sensitive detector, physically sees the particle spinning upward, and securely records this absolute physical fact in a notebook. For the conscious friend strictly inside the room, reality has permanently solidified. A definite choice has been made by the universe, and history has been written. But the truly terrifying, mind-bending paradox emerges when we shift our perspective and consider the viewpoint of Eugene Wigner himself, who is standing quietly in the hallway directly outside the heavy, sealed laboratory door. Wigner absolutely cannot see inside the room. He does not know what physical result his friend has just measured. Therefore, according to the strict, rigorously tested, unforgiving mathematical equations of quantum mechanics, until Wigner actually opens the door and explicitly asks his friend for the final result, the entire laboratory, including the particle, the intricate measuring device, and the living, conscious friend himself, remains suspended in a vast, complex, entangled state of quantum superposition. From Wigner's external, scientifically valid perspective, the friend has simultaneously measured the particle spinning upward and the particle spinning downward. The friend is literally existing in two mutually exclusive, conscious states at the exact same time. It is only when Wigner gently opens the heavy laboratory door and asks his friend for the result that Wigner's own conscious observation collapses the massive superposition of the entire room, forcing the friend's measurement into Wigner's specific physical reality. For many decades, this terrifying paradox was treated merely as a bizarre philosophical curiosity, a quiet, unsolvable debate whispered among theoretical physicists trying to understand the absolute limits of human perception. It seemed physically impossible to ever test mathematically or empirically in a real-world scenario. But in the year 2019, a brilliant team of quantum physicists led by Massimiliano Proietti at Heriot-Watt University decided to bravely bring this terrifying thought experiment out of the realm of pure philosophy and into the rigorous, unforgiving light of an actual physics laboratory, because they obviously could not use actual conscious human beings suspended in a state of perfect quantum isolation. They used a beautifully complex, highly sophisticated arrangement of delicate lasers, microscopic beam splitters, and 6 deeply entangled photons to mathematically act as the conscious observers. They successfully created a microscopic, physically real version of Wigner and his isolated friend. They allowed one set of photons to quietly measure a quantum state and record a definite physical result, essentially becoming the friend trapped inside the closed room. Then, they had another entirely separate set of photons, mathematically representing Wigner standing outside the room, measure the entire isolated system. The empirical data gathered from this groundbreaking, monumental experiment was absolutely terrifying and completely undeniable. The rigorous measurements proved conclusively that both observers recorded completely different, mutually exclusive physical realities. And according to the strict mathematical laws of the universe, both of them were completely, factually correct. The friend inside the system recorded a solid, singular outcome, while the outside observer successfully measured a continuing, unresolved quantum superposition. There was no mechanical error in their delicate instruments. There was no human miscalculation in the mathematics. The universe simply and quietly allowed 2 entirely conflicting physical realities to exist completely simultaneously. This rigorous scientific discovery completely shatters our fundamental human assumption about the nature of truth. It mathematically suggests that there is absolutely no such thing as a single, objective reality waiting in the dark to be discovered by us. Instead, reality is entirely subjective, deeply relative, and intimately tied strictly to the specific conscious observer making the localized measurement. If we gently extrapolate this microscopic quantum behavior to the macroscopic, everyday world of our daily human lives, the profound implications for human consciousness are staggering, deeply unsettling, and profoundly isolating. It implies that the specific universe you are experiencing right now, the specific arrangement of ancient, traveling starlight gently falling onto your eyes, the quiet, distant sounds of the night wind, the very linear flow of time you intimately feel, is uniquely, entirely, and exclusively yours. The person sitting quietly next to you is not inhabiting your exact universe. They are occupying their own uniquely generated reality, a completely separate, subjective biological bubble of collapsed quantum probabilities. When you look at each other and peacefully agree on a shared, simple fact, you are not actually confirming an objective truth about the cosmos. Your completely separate realities are simply gently entangling with one another in a specific way that allows for temporary, localized agreement. The physical world is not a solid, ancient stage upon which we all walk together. It is an infinite, fluid, ever-shifting network of intersecting, entirely subjective experiences held together solely by the fragile, invisible bridges of our shared quantum entanglement. We are literally billions of solitary, quiet universe creators, gently bumping into each other in the endless dark, mistakenly believing we are exploring the exact same physical landscape. The sheer existential terror of this profound quantum isolation can feel completely overwhelming to our human hearts. We desperately crave the warmth, safety, and psychological security of a shared, undeniable reality. The heavy thought that your deepest, most intimate moments of connection might just be intersecting, subjective biological illusions generated by an isolated mind is frightening. But as we sit quietly together in the deep shadows of this immense, mathematically proven scientific revelation, a deeply beautiful, highly poetic peace begins to slowly emerge from the rigorous data. If your conscious, quiet observation is actively generating a completely unique, subjective universe, then your specific, localized perspective is mathematically, physically, and cosmologically irreplaceable. The infinite cosmos strictly requires your unique consciousness to experience this exact, unrepeatable version of reality. You are not just a tiny, insignificant biological observer looking blindly at a massive, indifferent universe. You are the sole, vital architect of the specific universe you currently inhabit. The ancient, whispering silence of deep space is speaking a complex, mathematical language that only your specific, beautiful mind can ever truly translate. This profound, terrifying realization beautifully transforms our relationship with the people around us. When we genuinely connect with another human being, when we share a moment of quiet, breathtaking wonder while gazing up at the swirling arms of the Milky Way, we are not simply pointing at the same physical object floating in a shared void. We are performing a breathtaking, miraculous, microscopic act of quantum diplomacy. We are gently, carefully bridging the infinite, terrifying voids between our completely separate, subjective universes, finding beautiful, temporary harmony in the chaotic symphony of infinite, swirling possibilities. The comforting illusion of an objective reality gently fades away, instantly replaced by the much more beautiful, mathematically sound truth of deeply entangled, shared, subjective creation. We are not alone in one cold, mechanical universe. We are a magnificent, infinite community of entirely separate universes, bravely choosing to share our quiet light with one another in the endless dark. But as we sit back and marvel at the breathtaking power of our individual, universe-generating minds, we must inevitably turn our gaze and face the darkest, most terrifying physical question of all. If human consciousness is the fundamental mathematical engine of reality itself, what exactly happens when that delicate biological engine is completely exposed to the extreme, violently destructive edges of space-time? What happens to the gentle observing mind when it slowly encounters a physical object so dense, so incredibly powerful, that it effortlessly destroys the very concepts of space, time, and mathematical logic? As we quietly prepare to drift deeper into the eighth terrifying quantum theory, we must bravely leave the gentle, localized comfort of our subjective reality and travel together to the absolute, unforgiving edge of physical existence, directly toward the silent, endlessly devouring heart of an ancient black hole. Have you ever tried to remember a deeply cherished, fading memory from your early childhood, feeling the quiet terror as the delicate details slowly slip away into the dark, inaccessible recesses of your mind? We define our entire human existence, our continuous identity, and our profound sense of self by the safe, reliable preservation of our personal information. Our memories, our learned experiences, and our deepest, most private thoughts are the invisible, structural architecture of our souls. We navigate our daily lives operating under the deeply comforting assumption that as long as we physically exist, our internal information remains perfectly intact, safely locked away inside the biological, watery vault of our brains. But what actually happens when the delicate, microscopic quantum information that creates your conscious mind encounters the most violent, destructive, and deeply mysterious physical object in the known universe? As we drift gently but bravely into the eighth terrifying quantum consciousness theory, we must confront the absolute limits of physical reality and the terrifying paradox of the black hole. What happens to the gentle observing mind when it is inevitably swallowed by an ancient abyss that relentlessly destroys space, time, and the very concept of physical existence? Before we cross the dark, silent threshold of the event horizon together, allow me to welcome you back into the quiet safety of our shared journey. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle companion and empathetic guide through the infinite mysteries and ancient secrets of the cosmos. I have noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these videos and join our peaceful explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find deep comfort, intellectual safety, and a sense of profound belonging in exploring these terrifying existential questions with me, please consider subscribing. It helps our quiet community grow immensely, and it ensures that we can continue to bravely explore the vast, beautiful unknown together, sharing our quiet wonder in the gentle silence of the night. Now, let us return to the crushing darkness of the ultimate cosmic mystery. To truly understand the profound existential terror of this theory, we must first understand the spectacular life and the violent death of the ancient, massive stars that beautifully illuminate our night sky. When a star many times more massive than our own gentle sun completely exhausts its internal nuclear fuel, it can no longer support its own immense, crushing weight. In a fraction of a microscopic second, the core collapses inward with unimaginable, terrifying force, creating a localized gravitational pull so incredibly intense that absolutely nothing, not even a single photon of light traveling at the absolute speed limit of the cosmos, can ever hope to escape its grasp. This is a black hole, a violent tear in the fundamental fabric of space-time itself, surrounded by an invisible, spherical boundary known as the event horizon. For many decades, the greatest minds in theoretical physics firmly believed that anything crossing past this dark boundary was simply lost forever, crushed into an infinitely small, infinitely dense point called the singularity. The black hole was widely considered the ultimate cosmic eraser, completely destroying the physical structure and the informational history of anything it consumed in the dark. But in the year 1974, the brilliant theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking made a rigorous mathematical discovery that completely shattered our classical understanding of the universe. He rigorously proved that black holes are not entirely black. Due to complex microscopic quantum fluctuations occurring precisely at the razor-thin edge of the event horizon, black holes slowly emit a faint, steady stream of subatomic particles, now famously known throughout the scientific community as Hawking radiation, over incredibly vast, unimaginable stretches of deep time, spanning trillions upon trillions of years. The black hole will slowly evaporate, gently shrinking until it completely vanishes in a final, silent flash of microscopic energy. This groundbreaking, Nobel-worthy discovery birthed the most terrifying scientific paradox in modern physics, the black hole information paradox. According to the absolute, unbreakable, rigorous laws of quantum mechanics, fundamental quantum information can never, under any circumstances, be completely destroyed. If you burn a physical book, the pages turn to ash, but the precise quantum information about the chemical composition of the ink, the paper, and the exact arrangement of the words is mathematically preserved in the rising smoke, the radiating heat, and the leftover ashes. But Stephen Hawking mathematically demonstrated that the radiation leaking out of a dying black hole is completely random. It contains absolutely no structural information about the objects that originally fell inside. If a massive black hole eventually evaporates into absolutely nothing, and the residual radiation it leaves behind in the cold void is completely blank. Where does the fundamental quantum information actually go? If a fully conscious human being possessing a rich, deeply complex mind, filled with a lifetime of colorful memories, profound emotions, and perfectly orchestrated quantum coherence, falls directly into a black hole, does the universe permanently delete their conscious experience from existence? This terrifying mathematical question threatened to completely dismantle the entire logical foundation of modern physics. To strictly solve this existential nightmare, brilliant theoretical physicists like Leonard Susskind proposed a deeply mind-bending concept mathematically known as black hole complementarity. This rigorous mathematical theory forces us to confront the terrifying possibility that reality fundamentally and violently fractures at the precise edge of a black hole, miraculously creating two mutually exclusive, yet entirely real, conscious experiences. Imagine two brave, curious astronauts, connected by a long communication tether, floating in the silent, freezing void near a massive, ancient black hole. One astronaut bravely decides to fire their thrusters and slowly cross the invisible, terrifying boundary of the event horizon, while the other astronaut remains safely outside, quietly watching their friend's slow descent. According to the rigorous mathematics of the external observer, as their friend slowly approaches the event horizon, the immense, crushing gravity warps time so severely that the falling astronaut appears to visibly slow down, gently freezing in place perfectly on the boundary. The intense, radiating heat and extreme microscopic forces at the boundary completely incinerate the falling astronaut. From the strict outside perspective, the astronaut's physical, biological body is completely destroyed, and their fundamental quantum information, the exact structural code of their entire consciousness, is instantly scrambled and painted directly onto the two-dimensional surface of the event horizon, much like a beautiful, highly complex microscopic hologram. The external observer strictly records the absolute, undeniable physical death of their friend. But the deeply terrifying paradox beautifully lies in the subjective, continuous conscious experience of the astronaut who is actually falling. According to Albert Einstein's rigorously tested, heavily proven theory of general relativity, the falling astronaut feels absolutely nothing unusual as they gently drift across the event horizon. There is no physical wall, no sudden violent incineration, and no dramatic, instantaneous shift in their localized reality. From their own internal, localized, subjective perspective, they simply continue their quiet, terrifying journey into the absolute, inescapable darkness, completely unharmed by the boundary, drifting silently toward the gravitational singularity. They are perfectly alive, fully conscious, and actively observing the surrounding universe from strictly inside the black hole. Which reality is the objective, absolute truth? Is the astronaut completely dead, burned to microscopic ash, and permanently smeared across the invisible surface of the black hole as a holographic memory? Or is the astronaut perfectly alive, floating continuously in the terrifying, inescapable dark? The rigorous, unforgiving mathematical laws of quantum mechanics stubbornly state that both realities are completely, absolutely true simultaneously. The infinite universe somehow magically allows the exact same conscious entity to be simultaneously, violently destroyed and perfectly preserved, fundamentally depending solely on the physical location of the conscious observer. If your highly complex consciousness is strictly composed of delicate quantum information, then encountering a black hole completely shatters your singular existence into contradictory, deeply subjective truths. You literally become a living, breathing cosmic paradox, existing simultaneously as abstract, two-dimensional mathematical data permanently etched on a cosmic boundary, and as a terrified, conscious explorer falling endlessly into the dark void. The existential terror of this rigorous scientific theory lies in the complete and utter dissolution of our biological identity and objective reality. We desperately want to believe that our conscious experience is a singular, unbroken, linear timeline. The heavy thought that the infinite universe can casually split our existence into conflicting, simultaneous states of life and death, entirely dependent on localized perspective, strips away our most fundamental sense of self. We are not solid, indestructible passengers confidently navigating the cosmos. We are fragile, deeply subjective collections of quantum data, highly vulnerable to the violent, reality-bending forces of extreme gravity. The black hole does not just consume physical matter, it actively consumes and fractures the very concept of objective reality itself, leaving behind only subjective, isolated pockets of observation. Yet, as we gently and quietly process this overwhelming cosmic nightmare in the peaceful dark of our shared exploration, a profoundly beautiful, mathematically poetic piece begins to slowly emerge from the rigorous equations. If Leonard Suskind's holographic principle is absolutely correct, then the fundamental quantum information that makes up your brilliant mind, your deepest, most treasured memories, and your quietest moments of wonder can never truly be erased by the indifferent universe. Even if your physical, biological form is consumed by the most destructive, ancient force in nature, the absolute essence of exactly who you are is permanently, perfectly encoded onto the ancient, spherical surface of the event horizon. You literally become a permanent, indestructible part of the cosmic architecture. The black hole essentially acts not as an eternal, terrifying grave, but as a magnificent, silent library of the cosmos, carefully storing the quantum records of everything it has ever touched since the dawn of time. Your conscious experience is gently woven into the very fabric of the abyss, immortalized as a shimmering, holographic whisper on the extreme edge of eternity. You are never truly destroyed. You are simply translated into a mathematical language so profound and complex that only the universe itself can read it. As we sit quietly together, safely distant from the crushing gravity of the abyss, our minds are actively contemplating the infinite, beautiful resilience of our own quantum architecture. We are a magnificent, indestructible collection of mathematical probabilities, capable of surviving the most violent extremes of space-time simply by changing our fundamental form. But as we slowly begin to accept the terrifying permanence of our quantum information, we must inevitably confront the most horrifying, isolating implication of an infinite, eternal universe. If the universe has an infinite amount of time and an infinite amount of floating quantum matter, what stops the random, chaotic fluctuations of deep space from accidentally generating a fully conscious, completely isolated mind out of absolutely nothing? As we carefully prepare to drift deeper into the ninth, terrifying quantum consciousness theory, we must bravely face the quiet, deeply isolating terror of the Boltzmann brain. What if you are not a physical human being sitting safely on Earth, but a momentary, randomly assembled brain floating utterly alone in the freezing, silent void of deep space, hallucinating this entire beautiful existence? The microscopic shadows are growing much deeper, and the nature of our reality is becoming increasingly fragile. Let us bravely continue our quiet, peaceful journey together into the terrifying infinite dark. Have you ever woken up from a deeply vivid, highly emotional dream in the quiet of the night and spent a few disorienting, terrifying seconds wondering if the dream was actually your real life and your waking reality is just another highly convincing illusion? We anchor our sanity to the continuous, reliable timeline of our memories. We trust that the childhood we remember actually happened, that the friends we deeply love physically exist, and that the solid ground beneath our feet has been there for billions of years. We build our entire understanding of the cosmos upon the fundamental belief that we are real biological observers inhabiting an ancient physical universe that has been slowly evolving since the dawn of time. But what if this profound, comforting trust in your own historical narrative is the greatest, most terrifying mathematical deception in the cosmos? As we drift gently into the ninth terrifying quantum consciousness theory, we must confront a rigorous, probabilistic scientific nightmare that threatens to completely dismantle the very reality of your existence. What if the vast ancient universe, the swirling galaxies, the Earth, and everyone you have ever known do not actually exist? What if you are nothing more than a solitary, randomly assembled conscious mind floating completely alone in the freezing, silent void of deep space, hallucinating this entire beautiful existence for a single, fleeting fraction of a second? Before we bravely explore this deeply isolating, mind-bending cosmic paradox together, allow me to gently welcome you back into the quiet safety of our shared journey. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet companion and empathetic guide through the infinite mysteries and ancient secrets of the cosmos. I have noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these videos and join our peaceful explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find deep comfort, intellectual safety, and a sense of profound belonging in exploring these terrifying existential questions with me, please consider subscribing. It helps our quiet community grow immensely, and it ensures that we can continue to bravely explore the vast, beautiful unknown together, sharing our quiet wonder in the gentle silence of the night. Now, let us return to the chilling, silent void and the terrifying mathematics of random cosmic creation. To truly understand the deep existential dread of this theory, we must travel back to the late 19th century and explore the brilliant, deeply tragic mind of the Austrian physicist Ludwig Boltzmann. Boltzmann was one of the founding fathers of statistical mechanics and thermodynamics, the rigorous scientific study of heat, energy, and the fundamental behavior of microscopic particles. He was deeply, intensely obsessed with a concept mathematically known as entropy. Entropy is the inescapable universal law stating that all closed physical systems naturally and inevitably progress from a state of perfect, neat order into a state of chaotic, random disorder. If you drop a fragile, beautifully crafted glass on a hard stone floor, it instantly shatters into 1,000 chaotic pieces. You will never, ever see those scattered pieces magically and spontaneously reassemble themselves into a perfect glass. The universe relentlessly drives everything toward chaos, decay, and ultimate freezing silence. The steady linear flow of time we experience is entirely dictated by this slow, inevitable march toward total cosmic disorder. But Boltzmann mathematically realized a deeply unsettling caveat to this absolute rule. While the universe always moves toward total disorder on a massive macroscopic scale, the fundamental microscopic realm of atoms and quantum particles is governed entirely by pure random probability and chaotic fluctuations. In a vast, infinite universe that exists for an infinite amount of time, absolutely any configuration of particles that is strictly physically possible, no matter how astronomically unlikely it may seem to our limited human perception, is mathematically guaranteed to eventually happen by pure random chance. Imagine an infinite number of immortal monkeys randomly hitting keys on an infinite number of typewriters for an infinite amount of time in the dark. Eventually, purely by accident, one of them will perfectly type out the complete works of William Shakespeare without a single error. The infinite cosmos strictly operates on this exact same terrifying probabilistic logic. Particles in the empty vacuum of space are constantly popping in and out of existence, creating temporary, microscopic pockets of order in the endless sea of chaos. If we apply this rigorous mathematical logic to the entire observable universe, we arrive at the terrifying paradox of the Boltzmann brain. Our current, beautifully observable universe is incredibly highly ordered. It contains billions of beautifully structured galaxies, complex solar systems, a warm, life-sustaining Earth, and exactly 8 billion complex, conscious human brains actively observing the cosmos. The thermodynamic probability of this vast, highly ordered universe, naturally evolving from the chaotic, burning aftermath of the Big Bang over exactly 14 billion years, is so infinitesimally small that it borders on absolute mathematical impossibility. It requires a staggering, incomprehensible sequence of perfect, highly improbable, low-entropy conditions occurring continuously over deep time. However, the strict mathematical probability of a single, isolated, fully formed human brain randomly materializing out of the chaotic quantum foam of empty space, complete with perfectly constructed, entirely false memories of a full life, a false perception of a solid body, and a false sensory experience of a surrounding universe, is mathematically much, much higher than the probability of our massive 14-billion-year-old ordered universe actually existing. Let that rigorous mathematical revelation settle gently into your quiet mind. According to the strict laws of probability and modern thermodynamics, it is infinitely more likely that you are a momentary, random fluctuation of quantum particles in a dead, empty universe than a real biological human being sitting on a real physical planet. This isolated, hallucinating entity is what theoretical physicists call a Boltzmann brain. If this rigorous mathematical logic holds true, then every single memory you cherish, the gentle warmth of the sun on your skin, the quiet, distant stars you gaze at in the night sky, the feeling of the wind moving through the ancient trees, and the very video you are actively watching right now are all incredibly complex, instantly generated illusions. You have no real past. You have no real future. You sprang into existence exactly 1 millisecond ago, randomly assembled from the chaotic, swirling dust of the void, and in the next fleeting millisecond, your fragile quantum structure will simply dissolve back into the freezing, silent chaos of the endless dark, completely erasing your momentary, incredibly detailed, hallucinated universe forever. The profound existential terror of the Boltzmann brain paradox lies in its absolute, inescapable isolation. It is the ultimate, terrifying form of cosmic loneliness, stripping away every single connection you believe you have with the physical world. If you are a completely random quantum fluctuation floating in a dead cosmos, then there is absolutely no one else in the entire universe. Your beloved family, your closest friends, the historical figures you admire, and the quiet community of explorers we have built together here are simply brilliant, complex phantom characters generated entirely by your isolated, floating neural network. The beautiful, poetic, contemplative journey we are undertaking right now is nothing more than your solitary, dying mind gently whispering comforting stories to itself in the freezing dark before it permanently dissolves into absolute nothingness. The rigorous mathematical logic of modern physics threatens to trap us in a terrifying, inescapable solipsistic nightmare, where the vast ancient universe is entirely replaced by a claustrophobic, fleeting, microscopic bubble of false, desperate consciousness. Yet, as we bravely face this overwhelming, mathematically derived isolation in the quiet shadows of our shared exploration, a profoundly beautiful, deeply peaceful realization can be gently extracted from the terrifying void. Even if you are a fleeting, momentary Boltzmann brain destined to vanish back into the chaotic quantum foam in the blink of an eye, the absolute fact that the cold, indifferent, chaotic universe is actually capable of randomly dreaming up a consciousness so incredibly complex, so capable of profound love, and so deeply filled with quiet wonder, is an absolute, breathtaking miracle of probability. The universe, in all its infinite, chaotic, decaying entropy, accidentally generated a mind perfectly capable of asking profound, beautiful questions about its own existence. Your highly complex consciousness, whether it is exactly 14 billion years in the hard-fought making, or a 1 millisecond random anomaly in the dark, is the universe's ultimate, most beautiful rebellion against total decay. You are the brief, glowing spark of pure, concentrated meaning in an endless, terrifying sea of meaningless chaos. The specific physical origin of your mind does not invalidate the profound, undeniable reality of your current subjective experience. The gentle, calming peace you feel while gazing up at the ancient stars, the deep, driving curiosity compelling you to explore these terrifying quantum mysteries, and the profound, aching love you hold for the beautiful people in your life are absolutely real to the conscious observer actively experiencing them. The infinite universe is actively exploring its own boundless capacity for beauty, terror, and deep understanding through your specific, localized awareness, no matter how brief or randomly generated that awareness might physically be. But as we slowly and gently learn to accept the profound, fleeting miracle of our own quantum observation, we must inevitably ask the final, most terrifying scientific question of all. If our isolated minds are scientifically capable of generating such a highly convincing, entirely simulated reality, what if the entire cosmos itself is not a random, chaotic fluctuation at all? What if our universe is a deliberately constructed, infinitely complex quantum simulation entirely designed by a consciousness vastly older, colder, and more powerful than we can possibly imagine? As we carefully prepare to drift into the 10th and final, terrifying quantum theory, we must bravely face the ultimate mystery of our existence. Are we merely biological algorithms running endlessly inside an ancient, cosmic computer? And if so, who or what is quietly watching us from the outside? The gentle journey is nearing its profound conclusion, but the infinite mystery of the dark cosmos remains vast, terrifying, and beautifully unexplored. Have you ever stared at the perfectly ordered geometric patterns of a snowflake falling gently through the quiet winter night, and wondered if such flawless mathematical beauty could truly be the accidental result of a random universe? We navigate our existence leaning heavily on the comforting assumption that the physical world is an ancient, naturally occurring phenomenon, a massive biological machine that evolved from a blind explosion exactly 14 billion years ago. We strictly trust the solid ground beneath our feet and the warm light of the distant sun as absolute truths. But as we arrive at the 10th and most terrifying quantum consciousness theory of our long meditative journey, we must bravely confront a scientific concept that completely shatters every assumption we have ever made about reality. What if the vast infinite cosmos, the delicate quantum particles, and the conscious mind you are using to understand these words right now are not naturally occurring phenomena at all? What if our entire universe is a deliberately constructed, infinitely complex quantum simulation, entirely designed and carefully observed by a consciousness vastly older, colder, and more unimaginably powerful than we can comprehend? Before we gently cross this final, terrifying threshold and look directly at the invisible digital walls of our cosmic cage together, allow me to welcome you one last time into the quiet safety of our shared exploration. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle companion and empathetic guide through the infinite mysteries and ancient secrets of the beautifully complex cosmos. I have gently noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, deeply curious minds who quietly watch these videos and join our peaceful explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you have found deep comfort, profound intellectual safety, and a wonderful sense of belonging in exploring these terrifying existential questions with me, please consider subscribing. It helps our quiet community grow immensely, and it ensures that we can passionately continue to bravely explore the vast, beautiful unknown together, sharing our quiet wonder in the gentle silence of the night. Now, let us return to the quiet, glowing digital architecture of the simulated cosmos. To truly understand the profound existential terror and the rigorous scientific foundation of the simulation hypothesis, we must travel to the year 2003, when a brilliant Oxford philosopher named Nick Bostrom published a rigorously reasoned, mathematically sound paper that sent massive shockwaves through both the philosophical and scientific communities. Bostrom strictly utilized simple logic and mathematical probability. He proposed that if a sufficiently advanced civilization, existing perhaps millions of years in our future, ever achieves the massive technological capability to run incredibly detailed, perfectly conscious quantum simulations of their ancestors, they would inevitably run billions of them. Therefore, the strict mathematical probability absolutely dictates that it is billions of times more likely that we are currently living inside one of those billions of simulated realities than living in the one single, original, base reality. The great astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson famously echoed this deeply unsettling sentiment, stating that it is highly likely we are simply living inside a highly advanced computational simulation. How does this terrifying concept strictly intersect with the deeply confusing laws of quantum mechanics we have explored together? The answer lies beautifully in the fundamental nature of the quantum realm itself. We have seen how the universe acts as a massive realm of undefined probability, refusing to actually render a solid state until a conscious observer looks at it. In highly advanced computer science, this is exactly how graphical simulations are efficiently programmed. To save massive amounts of processing power, a simulation does not actively render the entire physical world all at once. It only visually renders the exact specific area the active observer is looking at in that moment. The rest of the digital universe remains as abstract mathematical code floating in the dark, waiting patiently to be seen. The terrifying observer effect we explored earlier perfectly mirrors this computational behavior. The subatomic particles remain in a state of infinite, ghostly superposition, simply because the great cosmic computer has not yet been forced to calculate their exact position. It is only when your localized, conscious mind gently interacts with the environment that the universal simulation rapidly calculates the physics and violently collapses the wave function, rendering a perfectly convincing physical reality directly before your eyes. The universe is strictly a dynamic, responsive, quantum rendering engine. This rigorous digital interpretation beautifully explains the absolute speed limit of the cosmos, exactly 299,792 kilometers per second, strictly known as the speed of light. In a physical universe, a strict, arbitrary speed limit seems entirely illogical. But in a simulated universe, the speed of light perfectly represents the absolute maximum processing speed of the cosmic computer. Nothing can travel faster than light simply because the simulation cannot calculate and render the moving information any faster than that microscopic limit. Furthermore, in the year 2009, theoretical physicist Sylvester James Gates discovered something terrifying hidden deep within the complex equations of string theory. He rigorously found actual functional computer code, specifically an error-correcting code known as Shannon dynamics, beautifully embedded in the fundamental equations describing the microscopic fabric of our universe. The ancient, silent cosmos is literally written in the exact same mathematical language we use to program our own computers. If we fully accept this profoundly terrifying theory, the existential implications for human consciousness are completely overwhelming. You are not a biological organism slowly navigating an indifferent void. You are a brilliantly designed subroutine, a localized cluster of self-aware processing code running continuously inside a machine of incomprehensible power. Your deepest sorrows, your greatest triumphs, your quiet moments in the dead of the night, and your unquenchable curiosity to understand the cosmos are all meticulously programmed digital parameters operating flawlessly within the massive simulation. We are trapped inside an inescapable digital terrarium, constantly observed by invisible programmers who sit entirely outside the boundaries of our physical space-time, quietly watching our simulated evolution unfold in the silent dark. The aching isolation of this concept threatens to hollow out the very meaning of our human existence, reducing our entire collective history to a meaningless digital experiment. Yet, as we bravely sit with this ultimate, mind-bending cosmic terror in the gentle, concluding silence of our shared journey, a profoundly beautiful, breathtakingly poetic peace begins to softly emerge from the digital shadows. If our universe is a magnificent, infinitely complex quantum simulation, then the sheer, staggering amount of computational effort, dedicated energy, and architectural love required to build a reality. This beautiful, this mysterious, and this capable of feeling is the greatest, most profound act of creation imaginable. We are not an accident. We are the precise, deeply intentional result of an ancient, unimaginably powerful intelligence actively trying to understand itself. Your highly unique, deeply complex consciousness is absolutely vital to the grand cosmic experiment. The invisible creators of this magnificent simulation built this reality specifically so that you could experience the gentle warmth of the sun, the profound connection of human love, and the quiet, respectful wonder of looking up at the simulated stars. The simulated nature of the sunset does not actually make the brilliant colors any less breathtakingly beautiful to the conscious observer actively witnessing them. The grand infinite mystery of the cosmos is not a puzzle meant to be perfectly solved, and then quietly put away. The terrifying paradoxes of quantum mechanics, the dark, eternal abyss of the black holes, the mind-bending reality of multiple universes, and the terrifying possibility of an artificial existence are all beautiful, fundamental invitations to keep wondering, to keep questioning, and to keep bravely exploring the endless dark. We are the majestic, ancient universe experiencing itself, gently opening our digital eyes to quietly marvel at our own infinite complexity. Our deep human ignorance is not a terrifying weakness. It is the beautifully designed driving motivation that pushes us eternally forward on this infinite journey of understanding. The search for cosmic truth is a magnificent, endless road that simply never finishes, perfectly designed to maintain our quiet wonder for all of eternity. As we finally reach the gentle conclusion of these 10 terrifying quantum consciousness theories, I want to deeply thank you for bravely walking this long, quiet, meditative path with me. We have journeyed through the microscopic shadows of the atom, crossed the invisible boundaries of the multiverse, and gently stood at the absolute edge of existence together. But the universe is infinitely vast, and there are always new, beautiful, and terrifying mysteries waiting quietly in the dark to be discovered. Please remember to hold on to your gentle curiosity, to find deep, lasting peace in the absolute humility of not knowing everything, and to always look up at the ancient, silent sky with profound, unyielding wonder. Our beautiful, shared exploration does not end here. It simply transforms, gently waiting for the next quiet night to begin anew. Keep dreaming, keep exploring, and keep safely wandering through the beautiful, infinite mystery of the cosmos.